my name is Espion. I run a small YouTube channel where I review watches, and I also run my own website being espion.com.au. And today we have something that all of us watch lovers rarely get to experience, and that's some time with an actual Microbrand watch owner, being Mike from Draken Watches. So hello, Mike.
Hi, Espion. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Great to have you. So we were chatting online, and we obviously have very similar tastes in watches, and I got to borrow the Tugela to review it, and I also have the Kruger here with me, which will be the next one up for me. So it's been really fun. So thank you very much for lending them to me. But I do have some questions for you today. So let's start with let's hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So I came from South Africa to New Zealand about 14 years ago, and my profession was originally a 3D animator, and sort of have evolved into a UI UX designer role, and yeah, I basically came to New Zealand just because I was attracted to the adventurous theme of the country, and I love the outdoors, hiking, mountain biking, water sports, that sort of thing. So it just made sense, and there's so much to offer here, and
Yeah, it's a beautiful country. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then obviously met my wife, and yeah, now we've got a little girl, and loving it here, and yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to me. I'm the reason I'm in Australia, because I came over here, fell in love, and then eventually met someone, and then got stuck just like you. So, so what was your first watch, and do you have some favorite brands?
Yeah, the first watch I really vividly remember was the Casio calculator watch. I'm not too sure the model of it, but just that idea of having a watch that can do little calculations on your wrist as a kid, that was like the business. And then I guess more recently I've been really interested in watches that are of a tool style theme, Oris, Sin, Damasco, to name a few. And yeah, I'm always on the lookout for new brands. There's some amazing micro brands out there that are doing really impressive designs. So yeah, if I see something that I really like, I'll probably not buy it, but I'd obsess over it for a long time.
It's too expensive. Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about the day when you decided to make your own?
Sure. Yeah, I started Draken in 2015, I think, and it started with me, I guess, learning what makes a high quality watch. A colleague of mine basically just taught me a little bit about the differences between a good quality watch. What is a quartz versus an automatic, for starters, and then once you go into mechanical automatic movements, what makes a really good movement versus your just run of the mill movement. And yeah, I think I sort of stumbled upon the whole microbrand sector, and learned that there was a whole group of companies that were basically just run by one person. And I thought, okay, if I was to start a watch company, what would the brand be like? What would the theme be? What would the inspirations be? And that's when I came up with Draken, and this idea of a robust adventure tool style watch that you can take anywhere, you can knock it around a bit, and it's going to keep going. And yeah, the sort of background with the Drakensberg in South Africa was a place that I spent a lot of time growing up in, and it had that sort of rugged, I guess, unforgiving inspiration that I used towards the brand, and the name Draken just had that ring to it that was just nice and short. Worked really well, and the Draken logo, which means dragon in Dutch, and I think in a lot of Scandinavian
Yeah, yeah,
languages too,
yeah,
really resonated with me. So
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so without giving away any secrets, Mike, so could you tell us a little bit about how that journey went from getting started to with concept design to actual manufacturing?
Yeah, so I guess it all starts with pencil and paper, just having a play with the shapes and designs, and obviously taking that into a vector format online, well, on your computer, and then for me it was just about getting feedback from the watch community. I put it up on one of the forums, and it was overwhelmingly positive, but I remember I made a few mistakes with the shapes of the hands, and just the thickness, and um, just understanding the tolerances, and um, I guess how big to make things. And it's always hard when you're only looking at it on the screen
Yeah,
versus you seeing it in reality. So um, yeah, and then obviously finding the right people to make the watch, that was very important to me as well, and making sure that they could fulfill my vision. And yeah, I think for most micro brands, that's sort of how it starts out.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. So, I guess in the same on the same note as well. So, we often hear, us watch buyers, how difficult it is to source movements from Japan and Switzerland. So what's your approach to this? And do you feel like a customer prefer one or the other? And do you yourself?
Yeah, I haven't found it too hard to source movements. Obviously, the ETA movements, they're discontinuing third party suppliers of those, but yeah, I don't really have a preference so long as the movements are reliable and of a pretty good quality. You obviously got to balance that with the cost, and the design that you're trying to achieve, and what customers are willing to pay for it. So but for me it was after that first watch, the Tugela, which we use the NH35A, which is pretty much ubiquitous in the microbrand industry. uh, I sort of discovered the whole catalog of movements that are available, and uh, was just like a kid in a candy shop, because there's just so many cool complications and things that don't even get used very often. And that's when I discovered the whole power reserve feature, which I I found really awesome, and wanted to use straight away. And that's, yeah, basically when the Peregrine and Kalahari came up.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Um, so we were chatting just before about this. So in my day job, I work a lot with small to medium business owners. So I have a bit of an understanding how difficult it is to be. You're the sales and marketing person, you're the web designer, you're the accountant, you're the quality assurance person, and you're also somehow needing to do your day job as you mentioned earlier, and also be a family man. So, what does your average week look like?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's a struggle, but yeah, I mentioned before, Draken is not my full-time gig, but I plan to go full-time next year, so working towards that. uh, yeah, you really got to try and balance all of those things, and make sure you're still achieving them at a high level. And on the Draken side of things, there's just so many things that are pulling you this way and that you could be focusing on, but really you just got to stay true to what's going to basically grow the business, but also keep true to that theme, and creating a lasting brand that is a good customer experience, and high quality that people are going to appreciate.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that that's a good segue as well, because you've heard this, I've heard this many times, and it's also my impressions as well. Like I've obviously reviewed the Tugela, and I've got the Kruger right here as well, and these watches do punch well above their weight when it comes to value for money. So sometimes you sort of wonder, really, as a buyer, how is it that you can even make any money from this? So could you tell us a little bit about what the future holds in terms of, you mentioned being able to go full time, but also having reasonable profit margins that will actually allow you to make a living from your watches?
yeah, no, it is hard, and you see new brands coming up every day, and there is a lot of, I guess, a race to the top, really, or a race to the bottom. I think that's a race to the bottom is the same. Um, Everyone trying to get a new brand out for a good price, but at the end of the day, you've got to stay true to the what you believe that you can put out and what your watch is worth, and don't undersell yourself. I know that Draken creates like extremely high quality watches, and I know that customers do appreciate and realize that when they get it on their wrist. So really, it's about finding ways that you can keep it as we have really small overheads, as you can imagine. We don't have any brick and mortar stores, obviously. All our sales are online, so we try and keep costs as low as possible by doing that. And yeah, it's at the moment it's just me, and the plan is to go full time on this next year, and I believe that I can still run it really, really well, profitably enough that it can support my family. And
Yeah.
um, the plan is also to try and bring assembly of the watches to New Zealand. And looking at it, I don't think that's going to be too difficult. It's just about managing all of those logistics, and managing those. I'm kind of waffling now.
No, not at all. No, so I know what you're saying, because I mean it's a big thing for. I know, for instance, there's Veil, the American brand, and I mean they always talk about the fact that they assemble their watches locally in the US, and that's a big selling point for them. And I think constant, by extension as well, for us on the bottom end on Earth, like I'm in Australia, you're in New Zealand, it would be just so fantastic to be able to support your local communities by being able to bring some of those, like bring the assembly back to your local communities, and hopefully have, bring jobs to your community. So it's an admirable approach, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different over here. We don't have huge watch companies that are solely focused on assembling other brands like they do in the US. So it's just about finding the right team to be able to do it. And
Yeah.
I do have a team lined up. So it's going to be an interesting 6 months, I think.
Yeah, well, it's just another reason for us watch buyers to support you and your brand. So it's good to hear. So I think it's fair to say that you have a type, being solid, sturdy watches on the larger side for us, for those of us with larger wrists. So there is a bit of a trend in the industry, obviously, to go towards smaller watches. So 38 to 40 millimeter diameter watches is currently what seems to be released by everyone. So do you have any plans to meet that demand?
Yeah, I'm not one for following trends, and I feel like the actual style of a tool watch is usually a bit bigger than your average watch, and I'm happy to stick with that. You know, when you're in the outdoors and um, you're in a certain situation, you need to be able to use that watch and read the time easily and legibly. So it hasn't been a bother to me that everyone else is going smaller. But in saying that, I am still keen to do a watch for smaller wristed people. I get a lot of our ladies, my female friends that say, "Hey, when are you gonna do a smaller watch and or you know a ladies watch?" And it wasn't really about fulfilling that need, but yeah, just creating a watch that would cover smaller wristed people, and so that it is something on the agenda,
Yeah,
and
cool. That's coming.
uh,
Good.
yeah, I can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we'll cover that in a sec. But so your latest watch, the Tugela JMT, which I was obviously lucky enough to be able to review, was just released. Um, so the question is, I guess, what made you revisit that Tugela design? Because I mean, to some extent, it's a bit obvious because it is such a unique design, and you did such an amazing job, in all honesty, to reinvent the dial and the indices on that. It's truly unique, and it's something you don't see anywhere else. So yeah, tell us a little bit about why that design came back.
Sure, yeah. The Tugela has one of those designs that's I guess the foundation of Draken, and it's a couple of our customers, actually a large portion of our customers, always wanted it with a more premium movement, like a high beat Swiss movement, and I, um, I wanted to do that, but also not just make it exactly the same as the original Tugela. So, you know, I looked at the options, and a GMT was something that was missing in the lineup. So that was my immediate thought for the Tugela GMT, and then obviously adding a bit more um, premium features on that. So it's got a more detailed dial with the really rich black if you choose the black version. The indices are bead blasted and filled with lume, and you know if you zoom in on those indices, you'll really notice the level of detail on them. And then obviously the crystal we used was double domed, so you're not getting any distortion with that dial. So really crisp, beautiful dial straight away. And then the bracelet, we just added an extra level of detail on that, and it's basically an engineer style bezel, so still fits within the tool theme, but just gives it a bit more uh, texture, and makes it a little bit more wearable as I guess a casual or almost a smarter watch, you could
Yeah,
say.
yeah, and it is, I feel like it is a bit of a signature model of yours as well. So it makes sense to revisit it 100%. Um, so um, so we do want a bit of gossip, Mike. So can you tell us a little bit about your next release candidate? So what are you working on?
Yes, sure. So I guess from your previous question, a smaller smaller watch, and the field watch is something that I wanted to look at, a watch that you could just slap on the wrist and not have to think too much about it. It's going to be super user friendly, and I guess in a similar vein to how the Benguela had those hooded lugs, it's, without giving too much away, it's going to have a very unique case design. And then the movement on that is, I think, something that's flown under the radar, that is an interesting or different to what you normally see in the microbrand sector, that is actually really good value and interesting. So looking forward to revealing that one soon.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So now we can't let you go, Mike, without checking out that Lego Land Rover behind you, because that looks awesome.
Yeah, so for all the Lego fans out there,
Maybe. Yeah.
I think it's just all guys who grew up with Lego. Just and obviously I'm a big Land Rover fan.
Yeah.
I just had to have it.
Yeah.
And yeah, the detail on the inside of that is impressive. You know, it's got you can see the pistons going up and down in it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so a big Lego fan, and
Yeah.
that's probably what's helped me in watch design as well, is just thinking about the modularity of Lego and how that translates into watchmaking.
Yeah, for sure. Fantastic. It's been really good to chat to you, and thank you so much. I feel like we have even more reasons to support you and your future journey with Draken Watches. So thank you very much for making the time. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you.
So what I will say just briefly as well before you go, so I think what we'll do is if people want to ask you questions that I haven't covered, to maybe just put them in the comments under the YouTube video, and perhaps we'll get you to answer any that you have time to answer. That would be good.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
All right.
Okay.
All the best.
You too.
Have a good one. Bye.